Nelk boys have recently had Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, on their podcast. But don't worry, they are already apologizing and going on a apologize tour and trying to atone for their sins for inviting a Jew on their podcast. So this is, or not specifically Jew. They had Jewish people in the past. It's specifically Jew who is willing to actually fight and defend the values of the Western civilization, the values of Israel when it comes to not getting wiped out. And you hear that from somebody who doesn't really like Netanyahu. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is James Valiant, and today we'll cover a recent podcast. We won't really talk about the podcast itself, we'll talk more about the response to it and basically what happened after. Yeah, I mean, James, when it comes to Nelk Boys, for those people who don't know, they have this podcast. They are not really sort of like a politics. They remind me a little bit of maybe like early Joe Rogan. Basically, he had a lot of UFC fighters on. So these guys have just a lot of like different celebrities, different sort of people from mixed martial arts, and also they are a little bit close to the Trump administration. So they had J.D. Vance on, they had Trump on, they managed to get Netanyahu on, who doesn't usually give podcasts. And the way the interview was conducted was mostly sort of like a conversation, talking to him about does he like Burger King or McDonald's. Not really what you would call sort of like hard interview, but this is what they do. Um, James, yeah, what do you make of? I'm not sure if you watched the podcast itself. As I said, it's not that important. But yeah, what do you make of sort of the way it's going right now? We'll have a few clips which we'll play a little bit later, but yeah, your opening thoughts.
No, I don't follow this podcast. Back in the day before the internet, there were magazines like that. Magazines that did, stories, recipes, restaurant tips, entertainers, comedy stuff, as well as news. And so they kind of reflect that Joe Rogan, early Joe Rogan, or this, I think, probably reflects that same approach. No, the problem they had was putting on these vicious anti-Semitic guests in response to Netanyahu. What is it? It was a war crime to interview Netanyahu. Last I checked, the West was not at war with Israel. Israel, I can't even. So interviewing Netanyahu is some great sin against the universe. Talk about moral inversion. They've got it completely upside down. Yes, we're critical of Netanyahu here. But what we're critical of Netanyahu for is precisely what they seem to evade. That is to say, Netanyahu has been executing the war against Hamas in an unprecedented way that has been designed to protect the civilian population. He's been far too easy on the Gazans, in my view. And they can't even acknowledge that they accuse them, all this genocide crowd. What they're doing is they're accusing Netanyahu of doing something. So, I mean, they talk about moral inversion, as I say, but Netanyahu, if anything, has taken unprecedented steps in the history of all human warfare in terms of protecting. He warns people that he's going to bomb buildings before he does so. He puts his own troops at risk rather than do what needs to be done in terms of getting Hamas. This is absurd, absurd on the face of it. Yeah, if they can't qualitatively see the moral difference between Israel and Hamas or Israel and Iran, then they're living in a different universe than I'm living in. Israel is on the front line of civilization here. Israel is comparatively a paradise of civilization. Comparatively, there is no question in the area who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And if you can't identify who the good guys and the bad guys are in any given situation, then I'm afraid you would have a hard time going to war, say, against Adolf Hitler back in the day. I mean, my God. No, the problem they had was not in interviewing Netanyahu. Obviously, the problem was that they felt the need to put on these vile anti-Semites who deny basic reality. They deny the fact that atrocities were committed on October 7th. Even the United Nations admits that rape was systematically used by Hamas, intentionally used by Hamas, and systematically executed in their attack on October 7th. Rape and torture and mutilation happened. It is dumbfounding to me that people who deny basic reality are the ones that are given a platform, or that you have to give them a platform if you interview Netanyahu. It is a total moral inversion. These people are moral savages themselves. No, they perhaps wouldn't have perpetrated the evil atrocities on October 7th, but they cover for them. They lie for them. They sanction them. They are the ones that give the international opinion that makes all of that possible. They America, in its own national security interests, has a vital interest here. There's no question in my mind. What should America pull out from its defense of the West, of NATO? No, we should not. And for the very same reason, America has a national security interest here at stake. And if these people can't distinguish between Hamas and Iran and Israel, they are worse than simply mistaken. When you open your mouth and make public advocacy saying that Netanyahu is guilty of genocide, then you don't know what the word genocide means. You're a moral savage. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and you get to the point where you don't even know, like, what are you supposed to say? Like, when somebody says you shouldn't have Netanyahu on because he's committing a genocide. I mean, what do I even say to that? Like, we are so far beyond any sort of like idea of reality, any sort of like understanding of reality. And when we say that they invited anti-Semites on to basically atone for their sins. We're serious. One of the people they invited was Hassan Piker, the runner-upper for the anti-Semite of the year 2024 by Stop Anti-Semitism. And the other ones are, well, let's listen from one of them. All the videos are, I think the first one is the longest, and the rest of them will be shorter, so we'll be able to get through them.
So when I first saw that, when I first saw it was leaked, I was thinking, okay, you guys are close with the Trump administration. We know the relationship you guys have. We know how Trump is basically owned by Netanyahu, whether or not you like to believe that. You guys have seen the picture of Trump pulling out Netanyahu's chair while he's sitting down, right? Every other world leader, Trump does the handshake and brings him in. Netanyahu, he just like, come sit right here, come sit there. He's the only person that Trump seems afraid of, right? And you guys are Trump supporters. You know the slogan, America First, correct? Mm-hmm. How can we put America first but send $4 billion to Israel every year?
So, wait, what about the point that I think that a lot of people make this, and I'm not saying this, but I feel like a lot of people want to say that Israel's America's strongest ally. That's what I've heard.
Right. What do we get from Israel as our greatest
No,
ally?
but I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that when you talk about him and Trump having that different relationship, I think it's the fact that they probably talk the most. Who knows their relationship? But I feel like that's not that important, right?
Oh yeah, well, I'm asking you guys as Trump supporters. You guys want to put America first. You don't want to fund Ukraine, right? We don't.
I'm gonna actually agree with you. And I actually said to Netanyahu's face, I was like, "Yo, you're making it harder and harder for Americans to want to support Israel. Like it's like almost non-existent at this point. It feels from a social media perspective or just from an American perspective. It's like you go to the average American and you think they're going to be free Palestine. So I agree with you that I don't think that Netanyahu or Trump is making it any easier for an American.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder why an average American is free Palestine when even inviting a Jew on your podcast and you have to, I mean, look at, like, they've made a decision, right, James? I don't know. I don't know about you, but usually when I make a decision, I have reasons to do it, and then I stand behind those reasons and behind the decision. And if I don't, I try to, change that. But the fact is, these guys have invited Netanyahu on and are now trying to backpedal it. So, by the way, so they were the guys on the right who did the podcast, Kyle Forgert and Aaron Steinberg. One of them is actually Jewish. At least one of them I know he mentioned that he is Jewish, and they have this guy in front of them, Sneeko. James, you probably don't know much about him, but he is a guy who is like full on anti-Semite would be hard to say. He basically became a Muslim, or he says he's Muslim, and he is doing everything that sort of comes with that, and that is sort of anti-Semitism as well. I remember he did one show with one popular Jewish streamer, and so uh, they had like a rabbi who was like showing them something, and Sneeko had to like look at the camera, like, look at this guy, look at what he's doing. He had to like virtue signal that like, oh, he doesn't have anything to do with Judaism. And again, it was just like showing the religion itself. Now, before I go to, let me also cover his actual points from the clip. So, again, he said like Trump is owned by Netanyahu. Again, it's straight up like anti-Semitic point that has been the idea that the American government is controlled by Israel. And there is that clip of like Trump pulling up a chair for Netanyahu, and that is a good explanation for that. Trump is a goofball. He doesn't have reasoning behind what he does. I think he likes Netanyahu personally, so he would do something like that just because he likes the guy. He isn't playing any 4D chess, not let alone sort of like being controlled by Israel in any way.
Well, think of the stupid quote logic here. I invite someone to my home and I pull the chair out for them in a welcoming way, and therefore I'm owned and completely controlled by said person. That's your evidence? He asked, what does America get from Israel? America gets a lot from every free country on this planet, just like every free country on this planet gets a lot from America. There is a win-win relationship. Israel has given the world all kinds of science, technology, trade. This is what happens in a free society. You interact with them. It's a win-win relationship. Now, the trade and economics should all be private, not government, absolutely. But we get a lot from Israel. Oh, when it comes to military stuff, which is the realm of government, we also get a lot from Israel. Israel is fighting the enemy, the fanatic jihadist enemies that would be on the doorstep of Europe and America if it weren't for Israel. Israel creates the front line, the frontier against this savagery, because guess what? The frontier against that savagery would be pulled back, and it would be Europe and the United States that were getting the full brunt of their hatred of civilization. And it is, fun. It's obviously there are innocent, good Muslims out there. I'm not going to incorporate it all, but it's the ideology of these Islamists that is the enemy. These people are medieval savages. No, we get a lot more from a free country than we get from dictatorship, could possibly get from a dictatorship. It is dictatorships we should not have any relationship with, because any relationship with a dictatorship can only hurt our interests. So, American national security. I'm not saying we should engage in altruistic wars like Vietnam or Afghanistan, as America's want to do, well, when these things happen, which is all based on ridiculous altruism. No, obviously not. But America should pursue its national security interests. And Israel is right now on the front line of civilization fighting the savages, the savage theocratic dictators that would be after Western civilization were it not for Israel. When Israel attacked Iran, they were doing it not just for themselves, and they were doing it for themselves, and they have a national security interest. But between rational and free people, there is a harmony of interests. If Israel was doing it for its own interest, it was also, by the way, as a benevolent byproduct, helping Western civilization and all Western nations. So America first means helping America's allies, those keeping the savages at bay who would otherwise be here were it not for Israel. So he asked, what do we get from Israel? We get a lot from Israel. And when it comes to selling or giving military aid to Israel, it is in America's national security interest to do so. So when the Prime Minister of Israel comes here, and he's been invited to speak before Congress, a joint session of Congress, on more than one occasion, and I gratified to believe that, in fact, most Americans are pro-Israel. Unfortunately, young people who watch this internet crap, or young people who get the lies told to them at American universities, these anti-Semitic lies told at American universities that, use this Marxist, colonialist, imperialist language, no, they get brainwashed. And so there are a bunch of young people who are on the side of the Palestinians, if you can believe it or not, or Iran, if you can believe it or not. But they are the product of corrupt propaganda, in my view. Most Americans, fortunately, are still pro-Israel. So America first, whatever that could mean, does not preclude giving military aid, selling weapons, giving weapons to Israel. I think that is an important thing that America does when we have allies that are fighting back the tide of dictatorship and savagery. It is truly anti-Semitic because, these people, they'll say, well, why should there be a Jewish state? Isn't that, theocratic? Wait a minute here. Compare it to the theocracies around them, where there is no free speech, where women have no rights, where gays are hung by chains from, or thrown off roofs. And the worst of them are Hamas and Iran. But look at the Houthis and Hezbollah and the Shia militias. Look, in my view, we shouldn't even have diplomatic relationships with places like Saudi Arabia. They are not rights-respecting countries. But my God, if you can't make the distinction between Israel and Hamas or Israel and Iran, then there is something wrong with your basic cognitive abilities, it seems to me. And you're got the moral situation completely upside down. And of course, there is the worldwide undercurrent of anti-Semitism. The world has not overcome its Jew hatred. There are many, many places now that I am disturbed at the rise of anti-Semitism. Australia, Canada, my country, Great Britain, you name it. The evil behind the Holocaust, back in the 1940s, 1930s, has not been overcome. That ideological collectivist bigotry against Jewish people has not yet been overcome in the West. And it is despicable to see these people having to, in response to having interviewed a world leader with whom America and Great Britain are at peace, an ally of Western countries, just having an interview with their leader is somehow requires them to do the penance of what? Having fact-denying anti-Semites on, who deny that there were atrocities committed on October 7th, or that somehow Israel deserved the atrocities on October 7th. Absolutely disgusting.
We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. A super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, James, Jew hate is now everywhere. The 1930s have returned. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And we have one more super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, last year I was in Charleston, South Carolina. The Prime Minister addressed Congress. I saw a lot of Palestine flags instead of the US ones. And yeah, so with that, let's actually, before we comment on that, I think, yeah, let's actually watch one more clip that will be really appropriate here and is also super short. So, wait, no, that's not the one. Oh, this one.
It's a good point. Someone said having Netanyahu on is like having modern day Hitler.
No, I saw that.
Which is, honestly, guys, I'll be honest. I'm here to. That's a good point. I like.
No, it's not a good point. And
No,
the sitting next
it is
to
an evil point.
Uh,
Oh my God, it's outrageous. Are you kidding? If Israel had wanted to wipe out the population of Gaza, it could have done so with conventional weapons within days of October 7th. It could have done so decades ago. No, instead, Israel is trying, I cannot fathom, but attempting to get aid and feed the Gazan people. That is not the appropriate role of a government that is at war for its own self-defense. And yet, Netanyahu, who's doing his best to feed the Gazan people, is engaged in a genocide against the Gazan people. That is absolutely insane. To compare Adolf, well, first of all, there's very few people in this world who can be fairly compared to Adolf Hitler. But to say that this is a genocide, no, it is all these anti-Semitic dictatorships in the UN who are saying that and redefining what genocide is in the process of their international law in order to get at Netanyahu. But to call this anything like the Holocaust is what is simply disgusting. No, that's truly evil. That is irresponsible use of your mind and irresponsible use of your mouth, buddy, when you publicly advocate something that vile and disgusting. Yes, of course, when countries start moving towards in a fascist direction, and I'm afraid to say that many countries in this world that were once better are moving in a fascist direction. I could even say that about the United States, frankly. But to compare it to Adolf Hitler himself, yeah, let me know when someone starts killing people, innocent civilians in the millions. Okay, then I will say that it's a fair comparison to Adolf Hitler. But that is an absolutely vile and despicable thing to say.
Yeah, and
Good
again,
Lord.
this is what gets Jews killed. This amount of, like, again, one of them is actually Jewish. He is trying to appease people who want him dead, people who actually want him to get killed. It's, in Nazi Germany, they didn't ask, are you practicing you know do you actually practice Judaism? No, it's you're a Jew, whatever you do, and you will get killed because of that. So yeah, this amount of I like their politics is probably terrible. They are like aligned with like MAGA, they're terrible. But the fact that you have somebody like Netanyahu, you had a Jewish person on, and then you go on to apologize, and then you go on and compare him to Hitler, it's disgusting. You are the person who will get Jews killed. You are the reason why there is a rise of anti-Semitism. It's because nobody defends the Jewish people. It's because there is a constant attack on the Jewish people, and it's accepted. People apologize for it. People will talk about that on the reality show. Even people like AOC are accused of supporting a genocide. People like Kamala Harris were accused of supporting genocide. So this has to stop, or something will happen. And these people
Jewish people,
wanted it to happen.
Jewish people, innocent Jewish people are being killed in my country. There is a rise of anti-Semitic hate crimes, violence, vandalism, attacks on synagogues, etc., all over the West today. There is a despicable rise in anti-Semitic crime, and these are the people who are giving it moral sanction. It's as if being Jewish is like having a swastika on your armband, and that's the way they're treating it. And if you treat it like that, of course, you're again. I'll make the moral distinction. You're not the one actually doing the violence, but you're the one morally sanctioning it, encouraging it. No, that is worse than irresponsible. Is deeply immoral. Um, do they even understand what happened at Auschwitz and Dachau? Do they have any clue what the reality of Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust was? Do they have any clue as to the evil of the nationalist socialist dictatorship that Adolf Hitler represented? Uh, the fact that that Britain attempted over and over, wrongly, of course, as we look back into history, to have peace with Adolf Hitler, okay, well, we'll give him the, Czechoslovakia and he can remilitarize the Rhineland. Okay, we'll let him get away with that. Next thing you know, he's invading Poland. Next thing you know, he's invading France. Okay, well, if they knew anything about history, they would know how despicable that comparison is. It is truly evil. These people are cognitively distorted, but that's no excuse. They are evading reality, evading some of the worst crimes in human history when they make the comparison to Adolf Hitler. It is disgusting.
We have a super chat from PC. Thank you so much. Who also says, James, if you go on Google Images, put in the right term, you will find tons of images of Netanyahu as him, meaning as Hitler. Absolutely, because you have to compare Jewish people who are trying to defend themselves. You have to compare them to people who try to wipe them out. This is how you destroy any sort of like defense of the Jewish people. Somebody said they also had Myron Gates on. Yeah, they did. And they also had Nick Fuentes on. We unfortunately won't have time to go through check out their clips, but I recommend checking it out. It was one live stream where they invited all these people, so I recommend checking that out. But let's listen to just one super short clip, and then we'll wrap up.
Wow. Hassan,
Yeah.
anyone goes on a podcast to promote whatever they're doing. We're
Yeah,
aware
but
of that.
they're not. But Benjamin Netanyahu's not promoting a book, dog. He's promoting a genocide.
Bro,
That's
we
the
have
point.
fucking O.J. Simpson on. We have
Okay, so Hassan Piker was somebody who had a Houthi pirate on his live stream who he talked to about what anime he's watching. So I don't think he has any sort of can claim any moral sort of superiority when it comes to inviting Netanyahu, not to mention that those situations are not comparable. Hassan Piker is a person who don't think any rapes happen on October 7th. Hassan Piker is a person who think most of the people on October 7th were killed by the IDF, and he has been propagandizing every single anti-Semitic point he can find against Israel.
People like that, and people like Nick Fuentes, who you just mentioned. Oh, what did Nick Fuentes once say? That America is controlled by homosexuals and Jews. Right. Okay. Now, these people are anti-Semites on the face of it. To call this a genocide is to be immoral. The use of your mind, as Ayn Rand pointed out, is where morality begins. And these people are irresponsibly, they're not insane. They're not psychotics. There's plenty of evidence to tell you what happened on October 7th. There's plenty of evidence to tell you what happened in the Holocaust. There's plenty of evidence to tell you how Netanyahu is actually treating the Gazan people. Unprecedented in the history of warfare. And all of that is being evaded so that they can make some ridiculous, morally grandstanding position, which there's plenty of people to give them, quote, intellectual cover for here in the West. Yes.
With that, let me remind people about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. There is no way to do sort of like a proper segue, but this was a depressing episode. But if you want to see something much more inspiring, something much more of this life and of this reality, I recommend checking out the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. You can find out more about it on objectivism.co.uk. It's a conference we are organizing later this year, October 25th, 26th in Orange County, California, and it will be focused on successful people achieving their success mainly through the philosophy of Ayn Rand for living on this earth, the objectivist philosophy. So make sure to check out objectivism.co.uk to find out more. James will also be there, as many of other hosts you have seen on this show. So if you want to see the list of the speakers, you can also find it on the website. So definitely recommend coming and joining us. James, we have a couple more minutes. Any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
Well, I'm active on Facebook every day answering questions. You can find me at James Stevens Valiant at Facebook, but you can also find me in October in Orange County at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. I think it's unprecedented really in the history of objectivist conferences, something you really won't want to miss. So yeah, do join us there in October.
Yeah, and we should say it's not exclusive to objectivists. I think even people who are not objectivists will be able to find a lot of value in it.
You want to see happy and successful people, and you want to know why they're happy and successful? Come check out the conference. That's all that's required.
We have the reality show coming up where we will be talking about anti-Semitic intersectionality. Even AOC isn't immune. If you want to find out more, join us on the reality show in just a minute or so. Thank you, James, for joining me here. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and bye-bye.
Be safe.